It's not important. Why? Master how the system works and what is the counter response to it. But I kept saying why, and then I had another colleague, Dr. Carl Hutchinson, who was training in orthopedic surgery. He was chief resident in surgery, and the three of us would sit up all night till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, arguing and talking about these ideas. And they both kept saying, Frances, but why? Won't you just get off of it? But I knew the why was important, and so I persisted. And I was actually standing in my kitchen, doing the dishes, cooking, and the brain computer printed out the answer. See, all you have to do is turn on your brain computer with a question, meaning gather data, pull in data, and the computer will do it. You see, it might lead you to the library, it might lead you to talk to some authority, so-called, might cause you to dig under the ground looking. But you are serious about coming up with the answer to this problem. And what I came up with, because the system constantly, it does the same thing all the time. May do a variation on the thing, but it does the same thing. And I wrote the paper that answered this why. It was written in the late 1960s and presented for the first time at the National Medical Association section on psychiatry and neurology in 1970. So the paper is a quarter of a century old this year.
That's right.
And I've been waiting 25 years for somebody to come along with a better idea and refute. You see, a doctor wants it. You got a better answer? Give it to me. Let me throw mine out. But I've been waiting and begging. Does anybody else have an answer? And I haven't gotten another answer that I'm satisfied with. But the system kept talking about black people are genetically inferior. Black people are genetically inferior. The president up at Rutgers is in trouble, was in trouble, because he said black students are genetically inferior, so therefore they can, and the students are up in arms all over the, you see, but that wasn't a new statement. See, I debated William Shockley in 1974 and debated Dr. Charles Murray, you know, from the bell curve at the University of Toledo, January the 13th of this year, 2,500 people in the audience. I say I won the debate.
Right
on. See, he was saying, variation on the theme, black people are genetically inferior. So that genetic inferiority, I put that in the computer. And another thing that the system constantly and continuously reiterates is that black, brown, red, and yellow people, these are minorities. But I said, whoa, here we are on this planet Earth, and fewer than 1/10 of the people have white skin. White is a minority. And black, brown, red, and yellow, the colored people, instead of being genetically inferior, they are genetically dominant. And I said, this is the answer. Can you believe that this huge problem is based on these two facts? I said, what this dynamic, this essential equation of white over non-white, because the only racism is white supremacy.
Right.
There's no black racism, there's no yellow racism, because no people of color can make white people do anything on this planet. Even though they are the 9/10 global majority, the power is flowing from white to non-white and not the other way around. And so I said, oh, I think I understand further what happened. And if we go back to Columbus, let's say this is our planet, and this is Europe. At a certain point, 15th century, Columbus started the voyages. Then other people who classified themselves as white took these voyages out of Europe and began circumnavigating the globe. But they found one interesting thing. They discovered people, but the people were already there. All of the people were colored people. And if the gentlemen were sexually frustrated, because these colored people initially said, oh, come on ashore, have some food, maybe you'd even like some sex. And if they stayed 9 months, they found that all the children ended up looking like the mothers. So they didn't need a fancy genetics laboratory. But they thought, well, wait a minute, these guys around here have boats too. What if they started going from south to north? You see, there would have to be that assumption because those guys had circumnavigated the globe long before. And so the concept that there could be white genetic annihilation occurred. And so I maintain that what we call racism, white supremacy, is about the prevention of white genetic annihilation and ensuring white genetic survival on a particular planet in the galaxy of the Milky Way that has a particular configuration of 1/10 white people and 9/10 people of color, which are shades of black. How many people saw the Newsweek magazine? What color is black? Black is all these different shades other than white. Okay? So I said, this is it. This is what the issue is all about. But it wasn't sufficient just to say that, because then I became aware of something that I'm sure the black people in Milwaukee learned, because people in Chicago learn. Black people learn before they learn how to read, and I can go and have been in London, England. It doesn't matter. Wherever there are people of color, all the people of color know, if you're black, what? Give back. If you're brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. And if you're white, you're all right. See, everybody knows it. And everybody learned this before they learned how to read. And you may think, well, this is just foolishness. No. This is critical education under a system that is about white genetic survival and the prevention of white genetic annihilation. Because these so-called colors are really expressions of a black pigment called melanin. Melanin is the pigment that allows skin to have coloration. If you have goo-gobs of genetically determined ability to produce melanin, you're crystal black. Get that? Crystal black. A little bit less so-called brown, a little bit less, we'll put red in, a little bit less so-called yellow. But it's all the same pigment. And this is what is a genetically dominant trait. As I said, the inability to produce it is a genetic recessive trait. And this is not Francis Welsing's genetics. They got a medical school here. This is what they teach. They got a biology department. This is not something that I created. This is standard genetics that I learned in undergrad